I can't work out whether Italy's clash with South Africa was the most interesting game I've got nothing to say about, or a dull, obvious fixture which just threw up a couple of talking points really worth getting into, because even though they went behind early on thanks to the only man smaller than his own biceps, Cheslin Colby, Italy actually looked pretty solid. Often, the issue with Italy is they lack the cohesion of another Tier 1 nation, but moments like this on defence from Leonardo Gherardini, who, as it turns out, was playing his last test match for his country, are excellent, shooting up, killing an attack in a way nobody notices, because he just trusts the players around him to make a defensive decision. Whether or not he should, based on evidence later in the game, is another matter. He does trust them, and it kills the attack. A few other forwards put in sizable shifts. Jake Pelledri remains an absolute king, ever bumping off and out shithousing the South African pack in an effort that doesn't deserve to be underestimated. And then we have this incredible kick chase by Dean Butt, who followed up last week's Jonah Lomu comparison by this week turning himself into Brian Habana. Tommaso Allen also had some really lovely moments as he once again looked a big step above the rest of this Italian backline. However, the key moments all came down to props. Italy lost 2 to injury, and then they were lucky not to lose 2 to stupidity after Andrea Lavotti was shown the most night and day obvious red card you'll see this World Cup for his attempt to actually murder Duane Vermeulen. The worst thing is, the Italian momentum I just discussed had come to a head. They had a penalty on the line. This was the moment they could really get themselves back in the game and push on to try and get that first ever World Cup quarter-final. But then Lavotti instead just defined the game and perhaps his career by throwing Vermeulen on his head and handing South Africa control of the game, because maybe only England are as good as South Africa at maintaining control of a game once they've got it. Italy kind of knew this, and so they basically just wrestled them to prevent them getting too clear a foothold, because they knew the moment the box had it, the game was gone. Because once South Africa get a lead, they grow in confidence, they just begin to take a chance or two, they grow, they whiff it, lose any ability to just relinquish that lead. This is going to be key for Japan next week. Whereas the 2015 Springbok side were willing to let them back in the game as it went on, this South Africa aren't always the quickest to floor you, but once you are down, the foot goes on the throat quicker than Eben Etzebeth when he's seen a homeless man. Allegedly. South Africa's game management was exceptional. At the end of the day, you've still got to beat a 40-man team, as I talked about in the England-Argentina video, and the box just shut them down completely. The only exception was this utterly mad passage of play, in which everyone just kind of went and played like it was a chuck around before the coach just turned up and laid the cones out. With just 5% more license to play from the red card and 5% more freedom from their lead, South Africa felt free to try chips like this, to run intricate moves like this, only blown by Colby slipping on the final pass. There wasn't this kind of invention against the All Blacks because South Africa felt they had to earn it first, and it's going to be really interesting to see in the quarters. Are they going to look to strike early, and how much variety will we see in their play before they're ahead? And whilst retroactively there are some doubts over the spectacle that turned out to retroactively become Parise's swan song, that game next week, there's no such questions. That is going to be a fascinating game, well worth discussing. I'm back in Tokyo, which is currently kind of beginning to recover from the typhoon that hit a couple of days ago and then, continued on for yesterday morning. Everything is very, very damp. Like, everything is just wet. It's still raining a little bit. It's not that bad, but this is going to carry on for some time. As far as I understand meteorology, which is, as you're well aware, every rugby fan's had to get to know a lot about typhoons over the last few days. This is my penultimate proper day in Japan, so I fly back to the UK on Wednesday morning. So I've got today, Monday, as I'm recording this, and Tuesday. Pardon me. Whoa. Keeping that one in. Yeah, and then Tuesday's my last proper day tomorrow. So I'm quite sorry to be going. It doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel really. I'm actually going to go home. I'm going to leave Japan. It's had an amazing time. And I wish I was staying for longer. I wish I was staying out till the final. But unfortunately, that isn't to be. Unfortunately, that isn't the case. So I will be running back home before too long. So this may be that this one, or certainly the next one, I'm going to record enough of these to get me through the pool stage videos I'm doing. I'm trying to get through all the games still. Thankfully, there's fewer than we're expecting. And so these will all have bits I'm going to record in the next few days. So it may be that you're seeing bits from me in Japan when I'm no longer in Japan, which is a sad thought, but I suppose I've got to leave sometime.